Hello, this is Janet Michael. In addition to hosting The Valley Today each weekday at noon on the River 95.3, I also produce podcasts, and I'm excited to introduce you to a new podcast series in partnership with Lord Fairfax Community College. Having provided higher education and career training for the past half-century, LFCC is tightly interwoven into the fabric of the Northern Shenandoah Valley and Piedmont regions. Join me every week for conversations with current and former students to hear their funny and inspiring stories as we learn about their journey to higher education, the role that LFCC has played, where they are now, and where they plan to go. We'll also talk to current and former professors about their experiences and best memories of LFCC over the past 50 years. Get every single episode as they're released on our website at theriver953.com under the podcast tab, or you can subscribe for free in Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, on Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search for LFCC Stories. Hello and welcome to The Valley Today. I am your host, Janet Michael. Happy Friday. As you are listening to the show today, we of course have pre-recorded our conversation on the Zoom screen. It is a fairly sunny, beautiful Tuesday morning. I am staring at the smiling faces of Mark Sutphin. He is my resident extension agent. Mark, you're based out of Frederick County with Virginia Cooperative Extension, but like Karen and like all the other extension agents that I talk to, you serve all 5 of our surrounding counties, right?
That's correct, Janet. Those of us working in Ag and Natural Resources and the Family Consumer Science agents serve the 5 counties in the northern Shenandoah Valley. Most of our 4-H folks are single county agents, but yeah, we get to interact with a great group here in the Northern Valley.
Also on the Zoom screen with us this morning is Kate Reed. She is the Help Desk and Greenline project leader for Frederick County. Rich Howell is also on the Zoom. He's the Help Desk and Greenline project leader for Shenandoah County. So we got, pretty much both ends of our listening area bookended here. And I'm excited because we're going to talk cicadas, spotted lanternfly, and question and answers. I'm debating on whether I really want to put Rich on the spot and do like a quick fire of all of my gardening questions and get them answered while we're on the radio show.
We can do that.
So let's start with an update for spotted lanternfly, because I'm guessing they're going to be hatching soon.
We actually already have first recorded hatch. Virginia Department of Ag and Consumer Services did record hatch last week on the 8th of April in Winchester. A little bit early for sure, maybe even a month early. The site location was probably a bit of a microclimate, so we had added heat from the asphalt and building, kind of creating some warmth for them to hatch in that location. But we'll see those black and white nymphs more in abundance in May here in Winchester, Frederick County. And the biggest update is really an expanded quarantine that has gone into effect by Virginia Department of Ag and Consumer Services. So in addition to Frederick and Winchester, we now have Clarke and Warren added to the state quarantine. There also are small identified populations that USDA and Virginia Department of Ag are working to reduce and eliminate if possible in Shenandoah, Page, Augusta County, and also just recently Prince William was identified. So this is a great hitchhiker. We've talked about this insect many times, Janet and I have, and it's a great hitchhiker. So familiarize yourself with spotted lanternfly. If you just do an online search for spotted lanternfly Virginia, you can come up with great resources that we at Virginia Tech and Virginia Cooperative Extension have available, as well as Virginia Department of Ag. So lots of resources, or you can feel free to reach out to us at the local extension offices and we can get you some additional resources.
Are you any closer to figuring out how to prevent them or get rid of, I hate to say kill, but we don't like them. So we want to get them out of here.
They're honestly pretty easy to kill in the schemes of things. The problem with this insect is its ability to occur at such high numbers and at the landscape, wide environment scale. So we can manage them on a 1/4 acre property. We maybe can even manage them in a 100-acre vineyard or a 100-acre orchard or whatever the setting may be, and kill the ones that are currently present, but they just continue to reinvade and reinfest from the surrounding landscape, the surrounding forest, etc. And just occur in such high numbers, literally thousands in a single tree are possible.
Speaking of things that occur literally in thousands and will be in the trees soon, the cicadas are coming. The cicadas are coming.
They are periodical cicadas, the 17-year periodical cicadas. We anticipate those in the northern part of Virginia. So Frederick and Clarke for sure, likely Warren and the northern parts of Page and Shenandoah are expected to be impacted by brood 10 this year of periodical cicada. We anticipate a busy year with our extension offices here in the Northern Valley and our Master Gardener help desks and Greenlines and farmers market events. So lots of questions from the general public, especially around these two insects that will likely see human insect interaction.
Now, are these cicadas, the periodical cicadas, are they different from the normal cicadas that we would see throughout the regular season? Rich, do you know?
Actually, yes, they are slightly different. There's 12 broods of cicada, and over the world population, cicadas number in the 3,000 to 4,000 different species range. Tens of thousands of them are everywhere. The majority of cicadas are annual. They breed, they die, they lay their eggs, and they come back next year, and they show up in very small populations. However, the 13-year cycle cicadas and the 17-year cycle cicadas are much larger, partially because over the 1.5 million years or so that they've been in existence, they have gone into what they call a predator satiation defense. Basically, what that means is they make so many of themselves that it doesn't matter how many get eaten by birds, by mice, by dogs, by humans. It doesn't matter. They will have enough to reproduce the population, partially because a single female can lay up to 400 eggs.
What?
So they are incredibly prolific creatures. So to again answer the specific question, the 13 and 17-year cycle cicadas have genetically turned themselves into baby-making machines. So there's a bunch of them out there.
Well, Mark, maybe you'll get lucky and the 17-year cicadas will think that the spotted lanternfly is a delicacy.
I wish. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen. I would just add too, the annual cicada that we see most frequently here is called the dog day cicada oftenly, and it will be later in the summer than the periodical cicada. So you have a few of those every year. They're green in coloration with green eyes. The periodical cicadas that we'll see emerging, we should start seeing those in early to mid-May, and they'll be with us for a few weeks into mid to late June. And the 17-year cicada is darker in coloration with bright red eyes. So definitely some differences there in how they look.
I was telling you guys before we started recording for the show about a podcast that I listened to recently about the cicadas, and the professor was talking about an old wives' tale or the folklore of those red eyes, and it's because they bury themselves so deeply in the dirt. It was thought that they stared into the fires of Haiti, and that they had done that for so many years that is what turned their eyes red. So when you said that about red eyes, I'm like, okay. So, Kate, are you expecting to get a ton of people calling in on the Green Line to say, hey, what is this?
There's been pretty good publicity about the cicadas. And so I think a lot of people will understand what they are or that they have them. But the kind of questions we get, and I think Rich can certainly validate this, is what can I spray? And, I just go crazy because the folks who call in frequently want the quick fix. And they don't see that going out with some sort of herbicide or insecticide is really harmful to the environment. So I see the job of the master gardeners is educating our clients to alternatives that are less harmful to the whole environment. Now, I know that I'll get a bunch of questions about the spotted lanternfly, but we can get into that later if you'd like.
Well, and Rich, one of the things that I learned from one of the Master Gardener labs is all it really takes is a little bit of pre-planning to prevent having an issue where you would even want to turn to a pesticide. If you have bugs on your tomatoes, there are other things that you can plant that will draw those bugs away from your tomatoes to something else. It just requires a little bit of planning. Do you get calls from people saying, what else can I do besides spray?
We do calls, emails, a variety of formats. What I found over the years is typically the alternatives, by the time we get the call, the time to do the alternative has already passed. So as Kate mentioned, that then becomes a training challenge, because you want to teach the client the proper thing to do, but then you've got to count on them to do it 4 months from now. And unfortunately, we frequently, I'm hesitating on the word, we're disappointed because we never learn what happened. Okay, in case X, we frequently never know, did they do it? Did they not do it? On a few rare occasions, I have seen the results of a client actually doing what I told them to do, literally 2 years later. And I was so tickled. My wife was yelling at me because I was talking about it for days.
But that is the situation in any kind of education. We don't know what the results of this will ever be, and it's very rarely that we hear back. So all we can do is continue to educate and try to keep spreading the less toxic, more environmentally friendly methods.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, Kate, Rich, can you guys kind of walk me through how the Greenline works? You mentioned a second ago, Rich, phone calls, emails, and I want to talk a little bit about some of the questions that people do call in and ask. Can we kind of do a 101 of the Greenline in the next segment?
Absolutely.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation for Extension Office Friday. We are on the Zoom screen pre-recording with Mark Sutphin. He is the Virginia Cooperative Extension Agent based out of Frederick County, serving all 5 counties. Kate Reed is the Help Desk and Greenline Project Leader in Frederick County. Rich Howell is the Help Desk and Greenline Project Leader in Shenandoah County. We're going to talk more with them about the Greenline in just a couple of minutes.
Got a financial decision to make or a goal to reach, but you don't know where to start? You've come to the right place. Introducing Quick Money Chats with the Northern Shenandoah Valley Financial Education Program. Visit tinyurl.com/quickmoneychat to schedule a virtual chat with a staff member or trained volunteer. We won't tell you what to do, but we will give you the tools you need to choose wisely. And because Virginia Cooperative Extension is part of Virginia Tech and Virginia State, your land-grant universities, you can be sure that our information is credible and trustworthy. And you'll know that we aren't trying to sell you something. Maybe you want to improve your credit score, or reduce your banking overdraft fees, or even figure out if you can afford to buy that car. Sorting through tons of information on the internet can be overwhelming, and sometimes it can be hard to know who to trust. Schedule a Quick Money Chat and get the information you need to take action. Go to tinyurl.com/quickmoneychat and get financial education personalized for you.
Welcome back to the Valley today. I am your host, Janet Michael. Happy Friday. As you are listening to the show today, we, of course, have pre-recorded our conversation on the Zoom screen. We are chatting for Extension Office Friday with Mark Sutphin. He is our local Virginia Cooperative Extension Agent. He is based in Frederick County, serves all 5 counties, however. Kate Reed is on the Zoom screen with us. She is the Help Desk and Greenline Project Leader for Frederick County. Rich Howell is the Help Desk and Greenline Project Leader for Shenandoah County. And Mark, these Help Desk and Greenlines are in all of the counties, aren't they?
They are, or we have some form of them. They don't all look exactly alike based on volunteer availability and office space availability. And certainly there's current COVID restrictions that impact us. So it's a bit of a moving target and a fluid situation as we try to reopen some things. But we do have a presence in each of the 5 counties. And honestly, for the best contact or resources to figure out what's available, it would be either visiting our Virginia Cooperative Extension website at ext.vt.edu and finding the local extension office that serves you, or you can go to the Northern Shenandoah Valley Master Gardener Association website, and that's NSVMGA.org. Again, that's Northern Shenandoah Valley Master Gardener Association. So it's those first letters.org, NSVMGA.org. And on the contact page, we list all of the Greenline, as we call them, and help desk contacts. So yeah, as we've been talking, and Kate alluded, our goal with this is to get best management practices out there for horticulture, properly identify plants and pests, whether it's an insect, a disease, a weed, etc. And the overarching goal is to reduce misuse and overuse of pesticides. And we've been talking about integrated pest management and other options, pulling in some of the cultural options, the mechanical options, and really just best management practices throughout the entire season or season before even that may impact the next growing season, so that you don't have to always reach for the pesticide on the counter as the first option. That's not our preference by any way.
And I will tell you from personal experience, even if you have done that, sometimes you don't realize what's going to happen a year from now. I mean, you may think in the moment this is the quickest, easiest fix to a particular problem. And a lot of listeners have heard me talk about the fact that we got puppies during the pandemic. Well, I'm married to an exterminator, so I got access to chemicals like you would not believe. But now we have dogs. And now we suddenly have this concern about what has he sprayed where that might be in the ground when they're digging it up, or the grass that they're trying to chew on. So you really do kind of have to not just think in the moment. You got to think long term when you're trying to get rid of something in the moment.
Right. It's the big picture impact, both spatially and in time. So yeah.
So, Kate, how does the Frederick County Greenline Help Desk and Greenline project work? Are you guys available via email? Is it phone? How does it work in Frederick County?
Well, prior to the pandemic, the office was open and we would staff it Wednesdays from 10 until 1. Frequently, we had a second or even a third master gardener there able to meet and greet the public, and we could then work with more clients. Now with the pandemic, we're exclusively working online and via phone. Let me back up and say that prior to the pandemic, you could also phone or email. I won't say it's been robust during the pandemic, but I think we've done a pretty good job. And what happens is we have to have several back and forths as people will call in. And one of my favorites is the sweet little old lady who called in and said, I have 2 trees that aren't doing well. What do I do? Well, you need to get a little more information and maybe get some pictures. So it's not a one and done when you're working remotely. And so that's changed things a little bit. I'm happy to take phone calls here at home. And in fact, I had one this morning. I just alluded to it. But I think it's really important to understand that we're trying to assess the problem, not only what is the problem, but the extent of the problem, and then provide the client with rational information that is research-based. We don't just go out there and say, oh, you've got deer, fine, hang Irish Spring soap from the shrubs. We want research-based information. Now, occasionally I will share something that I learned in a different master gardener group that I can't find the research to back it up, and I will tell the client, this is from my prior master gardener existence. But that was out in California, and growing situation is different. Soil horizons are different. The pests are different. So I have to be very, very specific and very, very direct. But at the same time, I'm trying to educate, be kind, encourage, and suggest that they call us back or come back if they have further questions.
you also sometimes have to be somewhat of a mind reader, because a lot of times people may not know what the question is they're actually trying to ask you. They may be describing a situation, but not giving you a question. Like Kate said, my trees aren't doing well. Okay, that's not quite all I need to know to be able to help you.
Janet, that's absolutely correct. And I was going to bring that out. My wife and I, in our past careers, have had experience in customer service. And one of the things you learn very quickly when you do that sort of thing is that the customer frequently does not know the question that they want to ask. So they ask the one they can think of. And then, as Kate mentioned, it now becomes your job to draw it out of them. And frequently we find that what is this insect isn't the real question. Frequently you find out that the real question is, what's it going to do and how can I get rid of it? Okay, 3 different responses. So that's part of the process. And actually for me, and I teach this to my MGs and to my new leads, this is the fun stuff. We do a lot of great things in Master Gardeners, but for me, this is the fun stuff. I like doing the research. The research, of course, we source Virginia Tech primarily, because all of our information going out to the clients has to be from a trusted, authoritative resource. That doesn't mean we can't use other resources, Burpee, okay?
Missouri Botanical Garden.
Yeah, to get us in the ballpark, particularly when we don't know the answer, which happens a lot. So you go to where you need to go to get in the ballpark. And from there, then you go to your trusted resources, because you now know you've got a possible name for this tree that they're asking about. Go to the trusted resource, get the good knowledge from the people who are doing the hardcore scientific research. Tech here. I'm also a master gardener in North Carolina, and so we use NC State as our trusted resource down there. But as Kate also alluded to, it could very well be that Tech does not have information on bug X. Well, if you can find it somewhere else, Penn State ag folks are incredible resources that we use a lot. As long as it's a .edu, that is knowledge that is all research-based, and we can use it and we can help get you the answer. So frequently we'll start out with, okay, Mrs. Jones, that's a really good question. And today I have no idea what the answer is. That's a perfectly legitimate first response. It's going to take me a couple of days to do some research, and I will be back to you. I teach here in Shenandoah. If you tell them you're going to be back to them in 2 days, you better be back to them in 2 days. Okay? That could be a final answer. It could be an interim answer, depending on the issue and the complexity. I've had clients in past years where we became pen pals for a couple of months because it was an iterative process. And that's okay. That is okay. That's what we do.
So how is it set up in Shenandoah County right now? Are you guys in person at all? Are you doing phone, email?
We are not in person currently. Normally in season, we are first and third Friday from 9 to noon at the extension office in Woodstock. Since COVID, during the season, what I've done is split the month in half. So there's a 15-day tour of duty and a 14, 15, 16-day tour of duty, whatever the month happened to be. I have a lead who volunteers to be the lead. All of my leads know how to access our email account, which is where we get most of our inquiries now, although we do get phone call inquiries that do come through the extension. It's a little complex. They phone or walk into the extension. The extension takes the notes and then emails our GreenHelpline. So we're getting emails from the extension as well. And then typically on each one of those 2 tours, I'll have 2 or 3 master gardeners or master gardener interns who help the lead with the inquiries that they get. Off season, which for us is typically November, December, and January, February, March. the first and third Friday become the first Friday only. And ultimately, I assume we're going to go back to that in some form as things get better with COVID. So that's the way we're doing it now. This January, we had 5 inquiries. February, we had 3. March, we had 3. In April, so far, we've had 6 inquiries, but a total of 12 different topics.
Nice.
So you can see how an inquiry can multiply. That's what we're doing right now. And as we go through the year, I'm sure the information that Mark's getting from tech, whatever we have to comply with from the state, and whatever the association decides it's going to do, we will see how we can expand where we can do so safely.
Mark, we've got to wrap up, but I know that both Kate and Rich, we've talked during the break and pre-show about some of the questions that they get asked, a little more specifics about different types of things. Can you guys hang out for a little bit and we'll keep going after we're done here on the air and do a little bit of an after the show conversation? Do you guys have some time for that?
Sure.
We do.
Awesome. Well, Mark, tell me one more time, where can people go to get information on how they can access the Greenline, the help desk in their particular area?
Certainly. So as we've alluded, right now, most of the Greenlines and help desks are remote. So it's via phone or email. And those contacts can either be found at ext.vt.edu. That's the main Virginia Tech, Virginia Cooperative Extension website, and you can find your local office there and reach out by phone and contact. You can also, here in the Northern Shenandoah Valley, reach us on the Northern Shenandoah Valley Master Gardener Association website, which is NSVMGA.org. And on the contact page, we have all of those links for email and all of the phone numbers for each of the 5 counties listed.
And I will put all of those links on the show notes page. So if somebody's listening, they can just go to the station's website, click the podcast tab, and all of that will be there as they're listening to this. So we're going to wrap up our conversation on the air. We've been chatting with Mark Sutphin. He is my local. See, I'm taking ownership. Mark belongs to me. He is my local extension office through Virginia Cooperative Extension. Kate Reed is the help desk and Greenline project leader in Frederick County. She is my helpline and Greenline project leader in Frederick County. Rich Howell is the help desk and Greenline project leader in Shenandoah County, which Rich is only 7 minutes from here. So you're kind of mine as well. We're going to talk more with them after the show. So if you want to hear the rest of our conversation, again, go to theriver953.com, click the podcast tab, and it will all be there right now. The perk to pre-recording. Have a great weekend. I will meet you back here on Monday. I'll have a brand new episode of The Valley Today ready to go for you just a few minutes after noon. The show is never long enough. And then sometimes it's just way too long.
I'm glad you like talking with us, Janet.
Yes.
So, I mean, do you guys get the same questions? I mean, I would guess you get the seasonal questions, obviously, but do you get the same ones over and over again? Kate, have you ever been completely and totally stumped?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You know, you look for something, you research it. We've just changed platforms for how we record what we're doing. The old platform allowed us to go back in and say, okay, I'm really stumped. Who is a specialist in insects? And then we can find those people and email them directly and say, here's my problem. Here's the client's question. This is what I've tried to do. Could you help me? And almost always we get very good responses and excellent answers. The new platform, I don't think is set up to do that yet, but I'm hoping that will come. And then the other piece, I think Rich said this, you know, we go out, I often Google to get the first hit, you know, what are we talking about? Then you find out, you can look at images, you can get the words that say, aha. Then I go to my sources, Virginia Tech, Penn State, Maryland, North Carolina, Clemson, and I make heavy use of the Missouri Botanical Garden. They're very good for the flowers and shrubs. all of these things come together and give you the picture that you want to present to our clients. Now, the other thing that I do, and Rich probably does too, on the computer, I've got files down the left side. And when I create an answer, or one of my other master gardeners creates an answer, that answer goes into the correct file. So when somebody calls up and says, oh, I've got this weird insect that looks like this, I can go into the insect tab and see whether I don't already have it.
Yeah, we've been doing something like that in the past because the way we're set up in Woodstock, the extension office is in one of the county buildings, and they have a classroom in that building, which the extension, the whole building can use it, but the extension controls. So that's where we set up on first and third Fridays, and we have a PC in there, internet access. So for probably, oh gosh, the last 5 or 6 years, I have had a similar setup there. That's the good news. The bad news is I just found out that Virginia Tech IT has picked up that computer because the hard drive is apparently crashing. I am stunned and saddened because I'm afraid we've lost all of that. And Kate, you probably agree with this. The best tool out there now is a client with a smartphone that has a camera.
Yes.
The ability to get a decent picture within hours, if not within days, has changed how we do business dramatically.
Well, and now that you're doing so much via email, do you find that you're getting more of those pictures because it just makes sense to be able to attach them to the email with their question?
Yeah, I would, if I can just add too, so some kind of the process behind this a little bit too, if our help desk get completely stumped, they'll often reach out to us as extension agents as well to take a look. And then if it is deemed necessary, we have the ability to send samples down to the various labs at Virginia Tech. So the insect ID lab, the plant disease clinic, there's even a nematode lab, soils lab, obviously for nutrient analysis and some other testing. But so those labs too, of course, in the midst of COVID have really transitioned to virtual samples. And so getting good photos is really, really helpful in diagnosing many of the issues, problems, identifying the plants that come through our offices.
And we didn't mention this during our on-air conversation, and now I'm kicking myself, but this is all free. This doesn't cost a dime to the person who is calling you up to say, what's wrong with my tree?
There is one thing that does cost. We always recommend soil sampling. And, there's no way to get around the cost of that.
$10. I mean, it's not even that expensive.
No, it's not. But folks are hesitant. And it just is so important to know what they're dealing with before they plant all this lovely new rootstock.
One of the things that I always smile about with a soil sample, because of course we push that big time and we do the same thing in North Carolina. And it's free down there in season, curiously enough. Ooh. Just a hint.
We'll send ours there.
What I have found many times is they're not afraid of digging the sample, and there's a good way and a bad way to take the sample, which we teach them. They're afraid of the report. Because the way I describe it, it comes back to you in science language, okay? And I tell them, and fortunately, people are learning that it's okay because Rich and the other MGs, we know how to read that, and we'll translate it for you, and that makes them feel better. But it's been curious observation, I think.
My
overall.
problem wasn't digging, it wasn't gathering, it wasn't filling out the form, it wasn't even putting it in the box. My problem was getting it from the front door to the post office. That was my problem. And thankfully, dirt doesn't go bad. So I'm guessing that sample is probably still good as it literally sits right here as I can see it sitting on my desk.
As long as it was well dried out, Janet.
Well, and now
Because
where
they-
we took that sample, we don't care what the soil's like because we've changed our mind about where we're going to plant what. So it doesn't even matter anymore. So we'd still have to do a new one. So do you get a lot of questions, like just simple questions? For example, when should I dig up my tulip bulbs? Or what's the best kind of grass to plant under trees? Do you get a lot of those regular gardening questions as well?
Yeah, it's surprising though how something you might think would be a recurring theme, a recurring question. How do I start tomatoes from seed? Depending on who they are, where they are in their life, where they are in their gardening life,
Right.
how that can change the tenor of what you tell them. The information is frequently the same, but how you package it has to be modified.
Right. That's the education part.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And since we're not technically on the radio right now, I can imagine that a lot of people call in with a question that they already think they know the answer to. So when you give them an answer that might be a little different than what they're expecting, I'll bet that's a big challenge.
They frequently want us to validate something they have decided to do. And often what they've decided to do is not the correct thing to do. And so that adds another layer of, I don't want to say difficulty, but challenge to the whole process to convince them that no, you really don't want to take Agent Orange out there. There's something else we could do.
Yeah. And Janet, you may know this from other conversations with Mark, the dichotomy between what an extension agent, lower left-hand corner, or a master gardener, two right squares, we have much of the same training. MGs are trained by tech, okay? Extension agents are trained by tech there, college degree, but we source the same core information. But the extension agents tend to work with large farms, for-profit organizations, nurseries, orchards, people like that. Kate and I work with John and Mary Doe, okay?
Well, the whole thing.
But we're held to the same standards. I mean, again, it has to be our authoritative resource. I have had happen, and Mark can attest to this, get a call from someone and he wants to know how to spray his apples. He's got 3 apple trees in his backyard. But the way the guy asked the question, it felt hinky to me. So I said, okay, I need to do some research, blah, blah, blah. Give me your contact information. And I called some people. I said, does this name sound familiar? The guy had a for-profit orchard. And he was fishing for a different answer than the one he got from the extension agent. For that very reason, if we think we're dealing with a for-profit, we back off. We don't touch him. We don't touch him.
I hope he wasn't in Frederick County and he was questioning the advice that Mark was giving him, because I want to know his name too, so I can tell him don't do that anymore.
Several years ago, I don't know, but that again goes back to what Kate and I were talking about earlier. You have to listen to the question. You have to listen to how they ask it, because it makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to add that master gardeners were created in the state of Washington because the extension agent was being slammed as apple orchards were being taken out and housing developments went in, and people were calling to say, well, I still have 2 apple trees on my property. I want to deal with them. Well, that's not the extension agent's job. They're working with the large orchards, the commercial orchards. So this gentleman in the state of Washington figured out he could train a cohort of volunteers to answer the non-commercial, the not-for-profit groups that have a few trees. And that's how it started.
I'm forever asking, and this is the perk to having a relationship. I'm forever asking Mark stuff about apple trees and things like that. Not because I have any, but because one of my clients does, and I want to sound smart when I'm talking to Eddie, when I'm having a conversation with Eddie at Richard's Fruit Market, and he says something and then thinks he needs to explain to me, I can say, I know what that means. I know Mark too, and he's already told me what this is and why you're doing this right now. And we had that exact conversation last weekend about the peach crop and the amount of rain and all of that kind of stuff. And he's like, well, you know, that happened. I'm like, I know why it happens. You don't have to tell me why it happens. I got people. I understand. But and all of these Greenlines, all of these help desks are manned by master gardeners that have gone through this program and have taken the time and are committed to that particular program. This isn't somebody who is Googling on the side trying to give you an answer that you could have found yourself. These are solid, educational, researched answers.
That's exactly right. And Rich and Kate have both alluded to it, but you know, for a regulatory piece even, and I'll add this in, and you know, just to make sure that we are above board and following the protocols of Virginia Department of Ag and Consumer Services Office of Pesticide. If we give a pesticide recommendation, it has to come from a specific document that we call the Pest Management Guide. And so those are specific resources that have been vetted by our various professors at Virginia Tech and Virginia State, and put that together so that our volunteers, our team of volunteers throughout the state, have that as a resource, and therefore gets us through the hurdle of every single volunteer in the state having to have a category 10 research and demonstration commercial pesticide license so that they can give appropriate advice. So that's how we get around, you know,
and I've seen
get
that
around
book.
or that's how we solve that problem.
And I mentioned before with my husband being an exterminator, I've seen that book. He has to get his testing and his certification. It all comes through your office. And I've been able to answer when he was studying for one of those tests. I don't remember what it was. I'm like, oh, this is the answer. And this is, and he's looking at me like, hey, I know things, or at least I know people who know things.
I wanted to mention that one of the things that tech started doing, Mark, I'm going to say 4 or 5 years ago, is they publish it in PDF format. I love PDF format. It is so easy to do research in that format because you can Control F to find a phrase that you want. Oh my God, that is so much better. And that's one of the things that's irritating me about this whole computer problem. I had all the prior year PDFs, which I don't think I'm going to be able to get from tech anymore, probably, because I've had it happen early on. So I'm class of 12 in Virginia, and I think it was around 14 or 15. I had a client who was inquiring about advice he had gotten from us several years earlier on using malathion. And we had told him, oh yeah, it's fine. It's great to use it for houseplants. You can use it. Well, now that's not true.
Yeah.
But I was able to find the resource that he had been given his answer off of, and knowledge changes.
Mm-hmm. science. It's supposed to change.
It's supposed to change.
It's also the regulatory piece of how each of those chemicals is registered with the state of Virginia, and it can vary from state to state. So yeah, that's why that manual has to be updated each year.
Yeah.
So how many hours a day or how many days a week do you personally, Kate and Rich, spend not just manning the phones or the emails, but doing the research to get the answers?
It can be hours.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's quick, but it wouldn't be at all unusual to spend between 10 and 20 hours in a week because you're researching, you're crafting an answer, you're being certain if it's new information that the other MGs are going to hear about it. So it's a little more involved than just Q&A.
Yeah. For me, it depends, and I'm sure it's this. Well, of course, our two counties are somewhat different in how we're manned and how we do things. Say in December, I was the lead in December, and I was the only volunteer in December. So I monitored the GreenHelpline 3 times a day, looking for new inquiries, and I answered every inquiry. Where were we in? April. So April, I've broken it down into two-week segments. I am the lead for this first 2-week segment. So the 6 inquiries and 12 topics, I've looked at the inquiries, but I have 2 volunteers for this 2-week time period. So I farm them the inquiry. They do the research, although I have an idea of the answer they should be getting.
Forever the teacher.
Well, and that's what you have to be. That's exactly. I mean, that is our prime function is to teach. So they're doing the work. I have them craft their answer as if they were going to give it to the client. I don't let them. I do that, okay, because I'm the lead for this 2-week period. Now, next 2 weeks, I forget who it is, but she will do that. That how she runs her team is entirely up to her, as long as the answers are standard and we use the email account. So let's pick one of the one. One of my clients this time had a question on, she did snap peas and tomatoes from seed. And she had questions on that. So one of my volunteers this period is one of our interns. I gave her that question. She got about 3 hours worth of research, and she crafted a beautiful answer with one small exception. She gave the client a .com reference. And it was a good company. It's, not a fly by night, but and that's why I have to review it. So I was able to intercept that and say, I've taken that link out. And then the other thing that she didn't do that I wanted her to do, am I going to be able to think of it? Oh, yes. Seed starts, they need to be hardened off. And she didn't mention that. So I added that piece and then sent the answer to the client. Susan, I sent the information back to her. Now, she has subsequently come back to me with about a 5-topic email asking for more training. She's
Fabulous.
Fabulous. I'm going to train her to be a lead.
Janet, I want to add something going back to the pesticides and that kind of thing. Clients will often ask us to recommend a company or a product. We may not do either. We may not make a recommendation of Joe Blow's landscaping service. If we give them the name of a product, it's because it's in one of the .edu documents. And when we give them those names, we're very specific to remind them that the label is the law, that they now have a contract that they must follow, and they are liable if they dispose of this improperly or they spray it improperly. And I'm not sure they always want to hear that, but it's an important piece for us to add.
You have a lot of people asking you for some of the homemade remedies, like there was
we get crazy
yeah,
stuff.
the weed killer thing that we actually tried at one point that I think was Dawn dish detergent, Epsom salt and vinegar or something. I forget what it was, and you mixed it all together, and it did work for like an hour. But then it, that was about as long as it lasted.
And that goes again to what we've talked about of how you have to be gentle and kind to your client, because we've all gotten clients who, by God, they were not using chemicals, and if that was the only thing that was going to do that, they did not want to hear it. And you got to deal.
Yeah.
You got to.
Yeah,
Well,
it comes back to our regulatory issues, and we have to give researched and labeled options.
yes.
So
yes.
it comes from our pest management guide, and just because it's a product found under the kitchen sink doesn't mean it's not still a chemical.
So
There's another thing that we need to work with clients about. It's illegal to trap animals and then transport them off your property. And so, the idea of, oh, well, I'm just going to go out and trap those raccoons. Well, fine. Now what are you going to do? Kill them or just let them go? They don't want to hear these legal restrictions. And it's a very hard sell to explain to them that, no, they can't take the trap over to the county park and just let them go.
Yeah, it's and then we'll get off the wall questions that have, it's not a plant, it's not we get a lot of animal questions, and that's kind of outside our bailiwick, but not really. But we can get strange things. I had one last year. Client wanted to know if there was any place around here where there was a, now I can't think of it, a raptor training center, like falconry.
Okay.
Was there a falconry around here? Well, yes, there is. So we get the weird ones too.
That's awesome. Well, thank you guys for hanging out with me for a little bit extra so we could put this on the podcast at the end of the show. I knew this was going to be fun. That's part of the reason why I didn't schedule another recording until 1 when Mark told me 11.
Janet, it's been so nice. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. This will air Friday, a few minutes after noon. And when it goes out and is on the air, all of the links and everything that Mark talked about, all of that will be up on the podcast page too. So if somebody listens to it after the fact, or they're listening to it on their computer, they'll be able to go in and click on the links and get access to all the different help desks.
Cool.
Super. Thank you.
As always, thank you.
All right, Mark, and I'll reach out to record May's show.
All right, perfect.
See ya.
Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye all.